Hi, I'm Andy with the Poetic Wax YouTube channel, and today we're going to do a Discogs case study. I've got a vinyl record right here, the Beach Boys, Summer Days. This was my dad's, and it is now in my collection. I wanted to do this because it has a ton of different variants or different pressings and formats and all that kind of stuff. So this will be a really good case study if you want to see how I, who have added all of these records to my collection, go about finding which specific pressing I have in my possession. So let's take a look. When I bring up my Discogs page, this is just on my collection now. It doesn't matter which tab you are on because this search functionality works for them all. So I'm just going to type in Beach Boys, and I can see I can go straight to Beach Boys, or I can continue typing Summer Days. Now I can see here all of these different versions, but if I go to this one right here that says all versions, this is the master release. So this is the specific page that has all of the different versions and variants on it. From here, what I like to do is scroll to the different versions, as you can see right here, and narrow down the format. I tend to prefer vinyl over LP just because it is truly a vinyl format. And so this shows that I now have narrowed it to 65 out of the 102 results. Now we start to get more granular. What are some other signifying things that I can find on this release that I can help narrow down the results? So if I look here, I can see here's the catalog number, DT2354. I can look at that here on the sleeve, or I can look at it on the record itself. Does it match DT-2354? Yes. Manufactured by Capitol Records USA. So it's a US pressing. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen one more time. We're going to narrow it to country, United States. How many does that? Okay, so it's dropped it down from 65 or so down to 23. And now I can plug in the DT2354, DT2354. And I can see right here that some of them have actually just, they say T. So this should help narrow it down further. Okay, I'm now down to 6 pressings. Well, I can tell you right now, it is not the 2010 because this was my dad's. It was an original year release. So if I wanted to, I could narrow it down further. So let's go ahead and do that. Because there are only 2 different years that show, and I know that it is not a 2010. I mean, I remember playing this on my dad's turntable back in the 1980s. Definitely not a 2010. So from here, a couple other things that we'll look for. First is it stereo or mono? I can see on here now, always go with not necessarily the sleeve. The sleeve may actually be different. I have seen older pressings say mono or stereo, but it differs on the actual record. I always go by what is on the record, if at all possible. This says for stereo phonographs only. So I can now look for stereo. But the other thing that I'll do is I'll take a look, if you look really closely, for the etching or stamps in what they call the matrix runouts. Those can also be signifiers that you can use to pinpoint the exact precise release. Now, ones that have 30, 40, when I've narrowed it down this far, may not be the most specific. Like it may have like a number or a letter slightly different. Like this says DT2-2354-B2. Sometimes they'll have other things like I can actually see on here 2 little marks. So sometimes it'll have 2, or maybe that's an 11. Sometimes it'll say like maybe 10 or 5 or 7, and you'll have those on both different sides. I tend to just go with whatever one is closest. It really depends on the record itself. How expensive is it? Is it how rare is it? Especially for those rarer ones, you may want to be more exact than not. Okay, let's dig in further. So from here, I can do stereo. See if that narrows it down further. Okay, I'm down to 4, so that knocked out 1 mono. And I can see all our duophonic, Los Angeles pressing, Scranton pressing, and then 2 just that are listed as duophonic. We can continue to narrow in and hone in on the results here, or I can open up each of these and just take a look at the runouts. So we'll do DT1 2354 A1. This actually looks like it has an X4 right next to that that's etched versus stamped. Okay, so this says it's the Scranton one. If I open up that, I can scroll down here. So A1X4, look at that. So that is, it looks like it is variant 2. And the AM in a triangle, I do see that right there. IAM, I on the top, AM below, all of that in a triangle. So that is correct. And variant 2, let's look at the back side. This says B2, not B6. So it looks like it is a slight variant. Once again, that slight variant. I'm going to actually go back and let's change this to say B2. Does it come up with Scranton? No, it shouldn't. Scranton 3. So let's take a look at this one. Well, this says it's Runout variant A side, but this is actually the B side, B2. So this might be just a slight inaccuracy on Discogs because it is user generated. This is the one I was in before. So you know what? For this, I would say I'm pretty confident that this is the specific pressing that I have. So I'm going to go ahead and add that to my collection. And we can see here, I have all my different fields. Now, I do have a video that goes into how you can add custom fields to your Discogs collection. The default ones are only a handful. I modified some, I added some, I changed the name to some. So I always like to have what I paid. I paid $0 for this. I'm going to go ahead down here. The date I graded it would be 1/2/2025. Notes. This is where I tend to add the specifics. I like to track this stuff because Discogs is user generated. I will actually add in my A side was this one right here. So that was the Runout. And B equals, it was B2, DT1, B2, there we go. And then I can add in additional things. I always like to track. Doesn't necessarily matter on my long plays, but yeah. Folder, I have them all organized in here based on what is in my collection and how I organize those. And it says July 5, 1965, 7/5, 1965. Now, when I actually export my list, all of these will show up. The reason I added the release date is for reissue, stuff like that. I like to know what the original date of the first issuance of that record was. I need to double check this, but I'm pretty sure that this is a July 5th, 1965 original pressing, though I will go back and double check that later. I can also add my listen counts, which I do track, and recently just posted my top spun records of 2024 video, so you can always check that out. And then I can also add the grading. I'm going to say this is a VG, and the sleeve condition is a VG as well. Doesn't look like he has taped anything. The sides actually look. You know what? Actually, I'm going to mark that as a VG plus. It's pretty solid looking. So minimal edge and corner wear. Overall, great condition. Initials written on back of sleeve. And I'm going to add to the media condition. Overall, it looks pretty decent as well. It's a little faded. It has some minor scratches and scuff marks, but I would say it's a solid VG, barring, my playthrough. Solid VG visually, because I've only looked at it at this point. Some fading and loss of shine. Plenty of light sleeve scuffs and scratches, but nothing deep. Labels look phenomenal for age. There we go. We have added it to my collection, and now I'm going to put it up in my queue of things to listen to next. Is there something that you would like to know how to do on Discogs? Let me know in the description below. Next, check out how I added those custom fields to my collection in the next video. Definitely a useful thing if you are obsessed with tracking and collecting and logging anything and everything. I'm Andy, this is Poetic Wax, and I'll see you in the next video.